My name is David Daniel Ball, and these are the headlines for Monday, the 23rd of February, 2009. Turnbull to go greener than Rudd. Actually, that is a very misleading headline. Turnbull has, policies that will outdo the government, but they are actually better for industry. And I'm a global warming denier. I can recognize that these policies will still benefit Australia, unlike those of Rudd. Rees bows to pressure, cancels Robertson's office. Australian author jailed in bid for fame. Police on hunt for escaped ATM bandit. Clinton urges China to keep buying US treasuries. Heath Ledger becomes hottest favorite in Oscar history. Nationalize the banks, Obama considers capitalist heresy. Australian missing in Japan's ski resort. Abbott backs Costello against Hewson's extraordinary attack. 11-year-old shot pregnant woman, then went to school. More drivers losing their license than ever. And look, I have a book about Labour government. And in comments from Tim Blair, we have Green Wedge. It's a Wong-Green conflict. The climate change minister, Penny Wong, has attacked the policy demands of the Greens and conservation groups as economically destructive and environmentally irresponsible because they would drive jobs and pollutions offshore. Keep our pollution local. So does water. We live in a strange new world. President Barack Obama's climate czar said Sunday the Environmental Protection Agency would soon issue a rule on regulation of carbon dioxide, finding that it represents a danger to the public. Question: what doesn't represent a potential danger to the public? Look, I absolutely refuse to have anything to do with Rudd's war against plant food. Mock that scheme. Environmentalist Jono reflects on the deaths of some 200 Australians. I'm somewhat troubled by the level of mawkish introspection it has generated, such as this weekend's National Day of Mourning. That emotional intensity should perhaps be redirected at restoring Australia's emissions trading scheme. Emissionites have already held their day of mourning, several days in fact. You'd think that they'd leave one day aside for people. Your money is the government's gift. CBS condescender Bob Schieffer faces hot economist Michelle Mucchio, during which he makes the extraordinary claim that people receiving tax cuts would be getting something for nothing, via Jim Treacher, who notes it is hard to believe that they're both of the same species. Akuma Patekatola. Sponsors of impoverished children abroad know the delight that follows every update on their child's progress. Drawings are especially moving for some reason. More moving, in fact, is this piece from Iowa Hawk on the brief life and pointless death of Akuma Patekatola. Follow the links provided to supply help of your own if you're not already helping. Luckily, they have a few jobs filled. The entire Australian population out of work. That's how things are shaking down in China. In the hot baskets, the ABC's Quentin Dempster, it is obviously getting harder to put climate change fires into the too hot basket. Well, obviously, answers Imre Selazinski, they'd set the basket on fire for a start. Welcome to your family, Dr. Kamrava. But this is one doctor who, if the allegations are true, should indeed be considered the father of the children and be made to raise them from Andrew Bolt. Greens add fuel to the fire, literally. Greens didn't just stop the fuel reduction that would have made the Black Saturday bushfires less intense. Greens literally added fuel to the fires by planting carbon offset forests, which have now burned, adding the carbon dioxide emissions they were meant to remove. The AGW believers at Cities of Theory predicted this danger 2 years ago. It can be expected that over the next 10 to 30 years, many of the areas where trees for carbon sequestration will be planted will be in increasingly hotter and drier areas, subject to more intense and frequent bushfires. Are the resulting risks to the safety of rural communities acceptable? Green Mafia. When seeming counts for more than achieving, it's no wonder that fast money boys are so attracted to green schemes. A mafia plot to take control of an alternative energy wind farm project in Sicily has been smashed, police have said. paying for Rudd's help. Kevin Rudd's promise. John Howard was out of touch with Australian working families, but Rudd promised help. He would take measures that would seek to make housing more affordable and to contain the price of petrol and groceries. Kevin Rudd's delivery. Meat, especially beef, dairy products, and wool, could cost a lot more if farmers are required to buy permits under the federal government's planned greenhouse emissions trading scheme, a farm policy think tank says. Because of the high methane emissions from cattle, beef could cost almost 25% more in 21 years and 5% more in 11 years, the Australian Farm Institute says. Blame may save lives next time. David Birchall worries that Victoria's Royal Commission into Black Saturday fires won't do its main job. Bushfire inquiries generally work best when they recognise that grieving and the attribution of responsibility are important but distinct processes. This perhaps is why coronial inquiries, which are by nature inquisitorial and forensic, sometimes yield more answers than do royal commissions, which often seek to fuse the healing process and fact-finding into the one brief. Hockey dives on Swan. Andrew Bolt missed it, but Bernard Slattery didn't, and explained with telling quotes how Joe Hockey wiped the floor with Treasurer Wayne Swan on Q&A last week. Warming to some paid opinions, Frankston City Council in Melbourne does its bid to subsidise the global warming gravy train. They want a climate change officer, permanent full-time or part-time, 48,000 to 52,000 plus super. An exciting new position has become available at climate change officer to oversee council's greenhouse and climate change strategies and initiatives. Skeptics may starve while the gullible prosper. Is that your opinion or your career? Spot the trick in the jobs description. As a selection criterion for this position is the possession of a current Victorian driver's license. As in, if you don't have a driver's license, you can't be the council's climate change officer. I mean, obviously, right? Divided in death, for heaven's sake, can't we at least be united by a tragedy? Was today's memorial service for the Black Saturday dead really a time to place politics, dividing us into First Australians and the rest? The service was marked by music, with many wiping away tears as Indigenous soprano Deborah Cheatham sang the national anthem. Aboriginal leader Auntie Joy Murphy officially welcomed those to the land of the Wurundjeri people. Actually, I think those who mourn the dead of places like Kinglake and Marysville consider that their relatives and friends died in land that was theirs also, and will be buried in land that was also theirs. They need no one to welcome them to the land where they lived and died. But add to this divisive political posturing at the service the fact that the guests of honor were serenaded by didgeridoos. There was a smoking ceremony. And were they really clapping sticks, I heard, in the singing of the national anthem? Let me surprise you. Many survivors from fire-ravaged towns, such as Kingslake, decided not to attend the service because they were still too traumatized. Many buses in Whittlesea organised for the event were left unused. Not surprised, really. I mean, it hardly sounds as if the service was designed with the victims' wishes, tastes, and loyalties foremost in mind. Maybe now journalists, at least those who sympathize with the protesters who set fire to Greece, will finally see that the left threatens them too. A Greek militant group that opened fire outside a television station in Athens last week has issued a statement in which it threatens to kill journalists. That sound you hear outside is called noise pollution. Have I shown you my book about Labour government?